When I call the meeting to order at 4:12 p.m. and thank you for your patience and for hanging in there with us. And as Jennifer had an appointment today, so she is not with us, but we welcome Michael Spellman, our assistant director, to fill in her spot. And Michael, you're just very informal. You know, when we say something and you say something, just don't wait, just jump in when as you would like to.
Okay.
So not seeing any public comments. Does anyone have any communications? Not that, not either. So may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 16th meeting?
I'll move that.
Catherine, thank you. And Holly, a second. Thank you. Okay, and those were emailed to us. Now, Matthew, you're without a packet, so.
Well, I'll just listen, and if I got something to chip in, I will, but I'm sorry.
Okay, please do.
couldn't
Yeah, I
access
feel
it.
badly that you don't
you're
have that. Okay. Is there any additions,
everybody all right?
corrections?
There is a, looks like a typo on the top of the second page, the COVID item. It's the second, I guess it's the third sentence. When this is available, there will publicly sent to the community.
Where is that?
There will publicity sent to the community.
There will be. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I had was under the item, second last item in that same section about email hacking. It's not really hacking. It's not like somebody's getting into our email just for the sake of clarity. You know, since these are the official minutes, it's that somebody is spamming us.
Mm-hmm.
Phishing, I would say.
Yeah, phishing.
Yeah,
Well,
phishing is a
phishing is
type of
another thing.
spamming, right?
Phishing and hacking.
Replace hacking with phishing.
We're receiving spam and phishing emails.
Is that on the
via
agenda,
our
Marie?
publicly listed emails.
It is, Matt, for later.
Thank you.
Yes, it's on our list. Yes, for old business. We're definitely gonna,
Right.
Thank you.
and we
So
have some
what did
remedies.
Hacking to phishing, is that what you're saying?
Mhm. Yes. Any other clarifications or modifications? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the December 16th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. And Michael, this is where we turn it over to you. And usually it's a 1-2 where it's the statistics and then followed by the director's report.
Okay.
So if you'd like to share anything that you think we'd be interested in knowing about the statistics, and then board members, of course, feel free to ask Michael questions or make comments or suggestions. Okay, so we'll.
So for those who did get the statistics, they'll notice that for December, quite a bit down. Part of that is the holiday season being part of it. And of course that we are still closed to the public. One of the interesting things I thought, though, under the interlibrary loans, we had a pretty good size increase from the previous December. And especially with only 64% of the libraries open in the state. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the other thing, because I know we've had a couple patrons respond to this, but materials added to the collection. And because of COVID, one of the things that is occurring is publishers are changing publication dates for material. So we're not getting as much in. They've also changed. Ordinarily, when we order things from Baker and Taylor, we order things out 3 months, and if we don't receive them within 6 months, they get automatically canceled. Baker and Taylor is now going to add 180 days on top of that because all these publishers are changing the street dates for their material.
Michael, how does that affect the fiscal year?
So we have to keep our eye on that, because when we get to May, now that they've pushed out a bunch of things that might go beyond and into the next fiscal year, we're going to have them cancel it at that point. We can't let it carry in, because then it might get shipped in the new fiscal year and be charged against the new fiscal budget.
Right. Right, exactly.
Is there the possibility of arranging with them to prepay for the items that we want, and so we can pay for them within the fiscal year and have them delivered later? And if they're not able to deliver them within a certain time, they can reimburse us?
Well, prepaying in the past, we haven't been able to do that with Baker and Taylor. And a part of that is they deal with most of the libraries in the country. We've gotten them to change invoice dates and things like that to an extent. And the finance department here in this town is pretty stringent as far as, why are you paying for something that you haven't shown you've received? So we try not to get into that. It's not a large number of books usually, but we're just going to have to be more cognizant of the fact that once we get to May, we need to get Baker and Taylor send us a list what's on our list of books that are still scheduled to be sent, and then anything showing a June 5th or so publication date, we'll have to have them cancel it. And then we
Can
can
we
always
just-
reorder it after.
If we order it after, then isn't it the same as if you were just getting it at that time?
If it hasn't come out before June 5th and we've received it within the week or two from that, we'll cancel it. But then once July 1st passes, we can then place another order for that same title,
Okay.
and then it'll be charged against the next fiscal year.
Can we roll the money over until next year?
No.
Oh,
So hypothetically, if we had a cancellation of $2,000 worth of books that we had ordered, and we cannot roll the money ahead to next year, can we use that hypothetical $2,000 to extend some of our magazine subscriptions and pay for those extensions now so we can utilize those funds? And then the money becomes fungible so that we can recapture the books next year?
Magazine, I don't know, because I'd have to double check, but I believe our magazine subscriptions usually renew in April. But we could take that 2,000, especially if we're on the ball and we look in May and cancel, we can still take that 2,000 and order more stuff.
Mhm.
And usually at the end of the fiscal year, we do that anyway.
Right, just-
What we also have to be careful is money has to be spent out of the same account. So we have to make sure, okay, it's money that was for books, which is the 5,300 account. It has to reuse it. It has to be for something out of the same 5,300 account. We can't say, oh, we want to spend it on something else that might be a 5260, 5261, whatever. So that's the only thing we have to be aware of.
And Michael, I think I'm just going back to my old days. You could most likely substitute titles. Let's say June 1st. It doesn't look like you're going to get book ABC, but you could say
Order something
substitute
else.
ABC with 1, 2, 3,
Right, exactly.
and
'Cause
still
we're
in that,
working
in that
on-
invoice.
We're working off a purchase order. So
Mhm.
we have like $110,000 purchase order for Baker and Taylor. So it really doesn't matter what we order. I mean, if we have to cancel some stuff, as long as we just replace it and order something else. I mean, towards the end of the fiscal year, traditionally, we've always looked to see, hey, how much money do we have left over and where can we spend it? Because ideally, you don't want to return it to the town.
Right.
Spend it.
Well, we need the materials for sure.
Right, right. And we look for things that we need. So usually at the end of the fiscal year, one of the things that we'll beef up is the playaway collection. Because usually ALA conventions occurred, they've had discount codes that they've released,
Right.
and then we can use those discount codes, save a bunch of money, and we'll order $2,000 worth or whatever if the money is available.
Okay, good. I know we have Sean here because there were questions, or some board members had questions about the under the programs and the viewing. I don't know how. Sean, do you remember what the questions were that Jennifer?
I think Jennifer had mentioned there were questions about programming hours aired on GMTV, why they were down some. Is that the question somebody have about that? Am I on the right topic?
I think so.
Okay, so yeah, there's actually a couple reasons that it is down a little bit. It's not, to me, it's not really that significant because we only have so many hours a month to air. on average about 720 hours for 30 days. And that 396 is about 13.2 hours a day that we're actually airing video programming at the actual amount of time. So the rest of that's filled in with advertising. It's the slides that are in between the programs. So it is down slightly for a couple reasons. One, there's a little bit less meetings in November and December because of the holidays. A lot of commissions and boards kind of maybe only do one meeting versus two. The second, we had less holiday programming. There's no holiday lights parades and things like that. And really probably the biggest difference in our programming hours, a lot of our programming over the last year because of the COVID has really kind of switched our format a little bit. We're actually airing a lot shorter programs than we used to. So before COVID, we may tape several library lectures, and they may be an hour, hour and a half. Instead, we're doing none of those anymore, really, per se. Maybe an occasional one through Zoom, but we're actually doing more shorter programs that we can send across different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and of course GMTV. They usually end up on GMTV as well. So we may be doing less longer programs, but we're doing, if you look at the production, how many programs we've produced, it is far, far more than we've ever done in our lives but they're a lot shorter. So that has an effect a little bit on programming hours. So the way we schedule our schedule, we will start programming on GMTV on the top and the bottom of the hour. So if a program only runs 15 minutes, then we have a 15-minute gap usually till the next program runs. Whereas if we had a full 55-minute program, then it's going to be a smaller gap. So that kind of makes up a little bit of the difference of why we see a little bit of a decrease in that. The reason I said I'm not too worried about that statistic actually started decades ago when we were trying to get a channel, when we were going to the state and we had to prove how many hours of programming we produced per day. And that would trigger a point where we could get a channel back then. And that's kind of how we petitioned the state, long story short, that's how we petitioned the state to get the channel. That really isn't really needed anymore, but what it does tell me, it tells me something else. It tells me how much we're actually leaving for advertising for our slides. So our slides, which I didn't see how many slides we did last month. Oh, digital slide. We did about 61, which is about average. Sometimes we're a little bit more, sometimes we're a little bit less. I think this month we're going to be far more. I think we're up near 80 already, and we still have another week to go. That's advertising for different library programs for us, tax office, whoever's given us slide information. So it's important to get that out. So if we run, and you'll see this in May, sometimes we have so many programs and we have these really, really long meetings for budget. We will actually be running programming till 3 or 4 in the morning. So you will see very little slides. So I usually tell people May's not a great time to advertise with us because it's usually being covered up with a lot of programming. I like having a balance of being able to put some ads in there where people may not want to produce a program, but still want to get the information out with Parks and Rec programs, library programs. Mystic Noe throw some programs, slides up there. Bill does as well. But if we run so much programming, you'll never see them. So for me, it tells me what that split is. So 396 is about 13 hours of programming, give or take a few minutes here and there. When you start getting up to about 469, you're probably looking about 15, 16 hours of program. And where you'll see that empty time is usually going to be in the overnight. So you usually won't see too much program between 1 and 8 in the morning. So there's about 6 or 7 of those 10 hours right there, or that are left after 13 hours of programming. or the overnight. So during the day, we're really only leaving about 3.5, 4 hours of empty space for advertising between 8 and 1 in the morning. So that isn't really a whole lot of time. But occasionally we do fill up all of that as well. I will say that since we've moved over to our new digital server system, it's a whole lot easier and more accurate to actually get an estimate of what we're actually, that's not even an estimate, it's actually a true number. Our server will give us reports exactly how much we've aired, video programming, how much we recorded, how much the signage was up. So that's an exact number. The old days, I would actually manually count it. I'd have to go through the entire schedule and add it all up. It would take me like 15, 20 minutes to do it. Where this, it's just like I hit a button, boom, there's my number. So I kind of like our new server just for that number alone. But so that stat has really kind of changed in usage of what we're actually doing. So to me, the key things are, how much programming we're producing and the advertising.
That's a very good explanation. Thank you. Anyone have questions of Sean while we have him here about this or anything else related to programming, GMTV? Catherine.
I'm not sure this is quite GMTV, but under community services and programs attendance, the young adult with only 2 programs, there were 568 viewings. So I was just curious as to what those programs were that were so popular.
That wouldn't be me, I don't think.
Okay.
Michael, do you know who that would be?
Well, Jessa runs the young adult programming, and I'm just trying to think what they would have been for that month. Jessa predominantly runs a lot of book discussion groups. She's up to 3 a week now, and those usually don't get filmed. But I can't remember. And of course, with what we had with the COVID issue, I was out part of the month because I had a quarantine. So I missed out on a lot of things. But that's something I can find out for you.
That'd be great. I was curious. Thank
No,
you.
that's a good pickup there. And if I recall, this is the recorded. These are people who are going back in to look
Right.
after the program's been live.
Right.
I think those may be, that I believe that is, yes.
So,
Can I ask a question
so of
about,
those 6 programs that took place, 2 of them were very popular. 2 of the
Yes.
live ones were really popular, apparently.
I'm just wondering if that's a sign of real word of mouth and if we can learn something from that.
Yeah.
Also,
Michael, do you mind putting that on Jennifer's do list to, either for next meeting to,
Yeah, let you know what the programs were.
well, just, and what the phenomenon, right. And
yeah,
just
so
that whole
Marie,
phenomena of how do you get 568 teams?
I do think that that's people that are attending and across all platforms. So the re-record. So if Jessa had the program and she had 100 people there, and she'll sometimes put it up on Facebook. We'll put it up on YouTube as well. I believe that number comes from all of the cumulative
Right.
of the actual day, and then 30 days worth of program across multiple platforms.
From the way Jennifer described it, the live is that next column over. So I think that's separated out.
Right.
Yes, I think
Live is if the program's scheduled for, like, say 9 a.m. or 9:45, and these are the people who come in on
Right.
However the platform is. But then it's like this meeting, it's being recorded, and this column most to the left are the people who, after the fact, be looking at the program.
Thanks a lot.
That's great. Any other questions?
can I ask a question about advertising? Can anyone advertise on GMTV? And do you have a means of vetting the ads, or is it only town departments who can put up slides?
It is actually only town departments, with the exception that if they're working with a third party. So say say social services doing something with United Way, and they want to sponsor the message, then we would air that message. We may have a little note on Groton Human Services wants you to know, and then whatever the United Way advertisement was. So, I mean, we do some. We kind of have to keep a cap on it. There is a public access channel for anybody to advertise a yard sale or church groups or whatever you can possibly think of. They can advertise it, but we try kind of stay focused on government programming.
Okay, thank you.
And is government also I should know this, the schools, the education?
Education is actually the third prong of community access. They have their own channel. So all the education stuff will go toward channel 19. There is some gray area. Sometimes we do a little bit of cross advertising because it's co-sponsored or, in the interest of both the town and the board, the school district. So if you notice on your cable system, there's 3 channels, actually 4 now, but there's channel 12, which is the public access channel, which anybody can, send advertising, go out, produce their own programming on any particular topic. And channel 19, which is the education access channel for the town of Groton. And then there's channel 2, which is the government access for the town of Groton. And people usually refer to it as community access or PEG, public education access, government access. And the cable companies or the video service providers are required to provide those 3 channels. So the other towns actually have their own channel, but they don't produce enough to have their own individual channels. So they combine it into one for Stonington, North Stonington, Ledyard, and Voluntown in this area. And that's channel 96, I believe. So you'll see, if you go up there, you'll see some Stonington selectmen meetings, some Board of Education meetings. So they'll combine all of that into one channel because they're not producing that much. They're just kind of starting to get their feet wet into education and government access. Whereas we've been doing it since 1976. So we're back there. We've been doing it for a long, long time, way before me.
Sean, if
Was no
this occurred to me as you're speaking, if Mystic Noank and or Bill Memorial wanted to do something similar, would they have to go to channel 12 or?
No, I mean, they could. I mean, but we've traditionally worked with them quite a bit. We put up all their messages. Matter of fact, I think it's Kate that sends me messages once a month in one big chunk. They post about 20, anywhere between 15 and 20 new messages. And Bill maybe sends 2 or 3. They don't advertise quite as much, but they're always more than willing able to send us stuff and we'll post it. We will, before the COVID, we would go over and tape some lectures. If we saw something that's really interesting over there that we thought the whole community would like to see that we weren't doing, we would go over there and tape an occasional lecture. I'd say we probably did about 4 or 5 a year over at Mystic. Bill didn't do quite as many. They were just starting to gear up just before the COVID hit. They were doing a bit more, but we've done stuff over there in the past over at Bill as well. For different lectures or programs as well. So we really kind of try to help them out because obviously they don't have a video division, and a lot of their stuff is very useful and valuable to the community. And we're not doing it, and they are. Yeah, why not? And if we were free to do it, so that would be the other caveat.
Matthew?
John, I'm new to the board and have never been on the board. And we haven't had a COVID vaccine. I hope I'll get to meet some of you in person one day. Do we have volunteers who help you in the production the way they do on channel 12 and the way they do on 19, or is it all staff?
It's all staff. We're professional staff. We've had some volunteers here and there. We'll do some internships. We've had internships, over the years. Obviously, the last year or so we have not, but we'll work with the area colleges to get an internship in. It's hard for us to get and train volunteers. If we're doing mostly training, it means we're not out doing recordings, and because we're responsible for a lot of town meetings and a lot of town programming. So
Have you,
if,
have you
if
considered whether or not there might be some seniors who would be willing to make a commitment to 12 or 18 months after training to justify that time?
It's possible. I mean, we work closely with the senior center, you know, Cindy and Mary Jo. We've had in the past, not recently, but we have had seniors over here that were committed. But it's been a while. You know, it does take a time to train. Particularly the new system that we have in now is a lot more complex than it used to be. But as time goes on, and people are willing, and you know, we have some of the commitment, yeah, sure, we probably have a volunteer in here. I never say no. It just it has to be that right situation, right fit for both of us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've kind of just moved you into new business there, Sean, as opposed to, so unless there's anything else, I think, Sean, if you're.
I was just wondering why
fine.
the visits to the library homepage are down so much, especially with the pandemic. I would think people would be online and using the catalog, but I know the website was redone, so maybe the visits, maybe it wasn't up and the visits fell because of that.
I think that's part of people would bookmark our website, and we were fielding a lot of calls from people saying, we can't get to your website. It says there, you know, 404 or whatever message, and we have to explain to them, you got to clear your cache, then re-enter the URL, then you'd be able to find the new site. So a lot of people probably weren't finding the site because of the migration over to the new site. I do have an answer for about the 2 YA programs. One of them was a program called Reading with Miss Jessa. Miss Jessa is the teen librarian, and that drew 169 people or views. And the other was, I'm sorry, that one was 369. So she was talking about new and different books, and she usually picks a topic, and the books meet the topic, and then people can talk about it. And then the other program that she did was a program they've been doing for about 8 months called Librarians Learn.
Oh yeah, that's good.
That's cute.
And so, you know, it'll be things like librarians learn how to tie a tie, librarians learn how to paint with pastels. They did one on karate where the people involved all broke a board. And that one drew 179 views.
Well, please pass on to her our amazement and gratitude that's just incredible that she brought in that many teens with those
That's
programs.
great.
Mhm,
Really creative.
for sure. Okay, any other comments or questions about statistics? Okay, again, thank you, Sean. I think we probably covered the GMTV that we would have talked about in new business. So really appreciate you. You're muted.
He may be gone.
No,
No, it's just-
anytime anybody has a question, feel free to give me a call directly. You know, just ask me, and I'll hopefully be able to answer any future questions.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're the host now, Marie.
Okay, I don't see
Okay.
anything special happening up here, but I guess when I'm done, just shut off the recording and leave.
Yep. Hit shut the recording off and just hit leave meeting, and it'll shut it down
Okay.
for everybody.
I can do that. All right,
Okay.
great.
Enjoy the rest
Michael,
of
you're
the
still on the hot seat under library activities. And there's the budget, winter reading, COVID updates, and tech infrastructure.
Yes. So the budget, Jed and I had to have it in by, I believe it was last Friday. They had some wiggle room, but we made sure we had it in early. The two of us will be meeting with John Burt and some finance department people to go over what we've submitted to the town. They always have questions for us. They try to think of questions that the town council might ask us so that we can make sure we have proper answers for the questions. The budget as submitted is basically a level budget from last year. And once Jen and I meet with John on February 1st, then we can come back, or Jen can come back and report a little bit more in detail. Some of the things about the budget, unless people have specific questions right now about it.
Any questions? Is that level funding or level services?
Level funding.
So the same,
Same
amount
amount
of
of money, 30 something dollars less than last year. We just like last year, this year we felt that we had to do our best to provide or to present a budget that wasn't going to have an increase.
mhm.
So one of the big things that we were able to absorb was the 2% raises that union personnel received and the increase in minimum wage that is going to be occurring on August 1st. So several of our part-time staff will be getting raises because of that.
So how are you absorbing that in level funding? Just curious.
Well, looking at some of the positions that existed but aren't filled, and actually saying, do we really need these positions? Especially, we don't know how much longer this COVID situation is going to last. I mean, if it lasts another 6 months, 9 months, and the amount of service that we're providing, or the type of service that we're providing, still isn't back to normal, we don't want to have too much staff here. That's a waste of money for one. But you know, if we have people here that there's not enough work for them, that's not a good way of having employees. One of the things that we can address later, and it basically, I'll just mention it because it's not something that's been presented formally or anything yet, is one of the positions that was already built into the budget that we will be asking for is another person for Sean. He's putting in a lot of time. His Liam, his assistant video tech, is also putting in a lot of time and extra overtime, and being able to present board meetings and public meetings through Zoom is not going to go away when the COVID issue is taken care of. I think a lot of people are used to this format and are going to want to use this format in the future. So if we're increasing the number of live programs again, but still a substantial number of Zoom programs, those two are not going to be able to handle it all. There's no way.
Mike, I'm not to monopolize, but I want to just kind of follow this staffing thing out. So when Betty Ann resigned and Jennifer was hired to be the director, it was Jennifer's plan to not have two managers and to make one assistant director. And when that happened, and might be putting you on a hot spot here, but and board, help me if I'm misunderstanding this, but my recollection was that the amount of money that would have cost for two managers became one assistant director and one position for support staff. And this fall, there were applications, but then the application process kind of stopped. Is that support staff position now not ever, was that been just taken out, and that's how the 2% raises are?
That position, which is a circ assistant position, is not the one that would have been funded by the extra money in the merger of the two management.
So is that position still intact?
That position is still intact. That one's not going away. Once again, it's kind of hard, you know, we're handling everything well now because obviously the public's not coming in the building.
Right.
And to hire somebody in and not have work for them doesn't make sense. But that position's there, the money's there. We plan on hiring for that position. Hopefully if we're considered as public servants low enough or high enough on the totem pole to get the vaccines early enough, that we could start looking at opening up the library again, you know, to more of a full service, then we would definitely want to fill that position.
Right, right.
But the position that you're speaking of, that is essentially going to be the position that we want Sean to be able to have,
Oh,
only because Sean's putting in a ton of hours. Um, it's not fair to have somebody working 70 hours a week all the time and he's salary, and the other person's putting in right now. Part of our budget was the projection of this year, and we're already doubling the overtime portion of Sean's cost center.
Can I ask, Sean actually does a lot of work that benefits all of the departments in the town, right?
Correct.
So that's a position that should get full-throated approval from everybody, I would hope.
I mean, we've had a lot of positive feedback from different people in town government. Recognizing that Sean's doing a great job in that what he's doing is taking a lot of work. So I don't think, and of course this is just my personal opinion, I don't think there'll be an issue with having that position approved. But it's also a position that needs a skill set. They need to be able to do a lot of the computer things and use different programs like Adobe, Photoshop, and editing tools and stuff coming into the position. Sean doesn't have the time to try to train somebody on something like that, and then also get them up to par on, doing camera work and editing stuff and adding graphics to things and the whole. They even with the upgrades that they've had, they're still spending a lot of time. Last week's town council meeting was almost 5 hours, and then he had to come back here and render a portion of the meeting because the server froze up and missed live broadcasting part of the meeting. It was like a 2-minute section that we had the section. He had it on the server, but he had to get it. He didn't leave here till 1:30 in the morning. So
Sounds reasonable.
I mean, we're not giving up on filling other positions that we might want to at some point. But I distinctly remember from last year's budget meeting with the town council that they were happy that we did our best to come in with a good, reasonable budget. And they were told by Jen in her comments that we'll do this as often as we can, but at some point in the future, yeah, we're going to have to ask for more money because there are going to be things that the library is going to need in order to provide the best service to the community.
Other
Are you
questions about the budget? Mike,
Are you
Matthew?
anticipating any capital projects for the year that we've not heard about?
No, because last year the CIPs, they had canceled most of them. There was one that was approved, and I haven't seen any movement in it. It was about redoing windows and all. The things that we've been focusing on, and they're coming up on the agenda, are the tech infrastructure upgrades, because that affects the operation of the library more than the brick and mortar stuff.
Thank you.
Do you want to move into the tech upgrades? We could
Sure.
get a link to the budget.
So the everything was done in 3 parts, and so we're probably in a second part of this. So the first part was getting the new firewall installed, which has happened, and the wireless hubs have been installed. What's really exciting about this is we now have 2 wireless access points on the outside of the building, so that people outside will get better Wi-Fi reception. One's in the back garden area. The other one will be towards the front of the building. We're waiting for some hardware to come in, some cable, some access points, and switches. And once that's in and installed, then we will have a much better Wi-Fi system in the library. Instead of using, in the past, we've cobbled 3 different networks together from 3 different providers. Everything is going to be from CEN, one provider, larger bandwidth, more secure system also. The new firewall will help make the system a lot more secure. the teens and the even younger kids are the ones that discovered ways around the system in the past. So those methods that they discovered won't be used in the future.
Good. Winter reading and COVID updates.
So the winter reading program is underway. It's the second year of that program. A couple of the librarians are running it. It seems to be really well attended. The first couple of meetings have had good response, and it's similar to the one book where they pick a book, or as a group of people they pick several books that they can alternate around or through. So I'm happy about that. It especially now, it gives people something to do during the winter. Traditionally, we've always had the summer reading, or the one book runs through the summer into the early fall. Virtual programming is still going strong. The children have revamped their programming a bit. They are now doing these 10-minute story times that are aired at 6 o'clock on Friday, and they've been popular, especially for the replays. But it's a good length of time. It keeps the kids' attention. I've been watching them. I got to help build their numbers for the live numbers. But that's been working well. There's been children's, teen, and adult grab and go projects going on in the vestibule. So the different librarians come up with craft projects that people can do, and they're put in brown paper bags, and publicity goes out to let people know when they're going to be available. So usually 3 days a week, there's at least one different grab and go craft project that some people can go ahead and grab. And those go right off the bat. I haven't seen a day where there's been any left over, and they're usually putting 30 or 40 out.
3 days a week, you said?
Yes. Yep. They'll alternate between the different age groups.
Is that just really just kind of quietly done? Not a whole lot of publicity, not a.
It goes out in the newsletter. It goes out in Constant Contact, and it's announced on Facebook. Instagram following is also really increasing. Last I heard, I think she was closing in on 500 followers. And so we're trying to make sure that that's maintained and that we're adding more things to that account, because people are looking for information there also.
And now, our most unfavorite topic, COVID.
Yes. So we're still closed to the public, unfortunately, because of the COVID issues. We have had staff members that have tested positive, and the board's aware of one of them in particular. When a staff member tests positive, contact tracing has been done. So when the first case occurred, that really affected the library, because that meant that the person that was infected was out, but an additional 6 people had a quarantine outside of work. And then when the second case occurred, as the first group was coming back, that meant another 4 people were out, and some of them are still out under the quarantine rules. So it's closely monitored. Closure service edition. So we're looking at different things that we can do if this is something that's going to be prolonged, as far as not having the building open for people to come in. We're trying to find things that people need, that we can meet their needs. It's tax time. It's coming fast. We're getting the phone calls already about receiving forms. So we bought lockers, metal lockers, brand new ones, and they're cube shape, and we'll have them outside, probably mounted or bolted to the wall somehow so that people can't take them down. And so people will be able to have access to the tax forms 24/7. We'll keep them filled as long as the state and the federal government continues to send the forms and the booklets. because the grab and go basically of library books and materials has been so popular, the vestibule area is pretty full. So we can't put extra things in there. We have 3 tables in there as it is for the books. So we felt that this was going to be a really good option to provide that. And they can be used for other things that may be disseminated. We can help the senior center out because they have their monthly newsletter. We can, have one of the bins. There's 6 cubes that are in this locker system. So, and it's something that we can use in the future also, once we go back to some kind of normality. But, we're looking at how we can provide print services. We're toying with an idea of having an inexpensive wireless printer available outside during the day when we're open, so that people can come with their phone or their iPad, use the Wi-Fi, and print out things that they need to print. So that hopefully is going to occur within the next couple of weeks. And looking at other things. Unfortunately, we've had to put a halt to our homebound service because we've had more homebound patrons come down with COVID and be hospitalized. So to be safe, we've got a 2-week hiatus on that. But we're also looking at the possibility of providing a delivery service to mature patrons that are still living in their own homes, that feel like they don't want to step out and come pick up books in our vestibule. So that's one of the other things that we're planning on trying to provide.
Matthew.
Question for Michael.
Yes.
I know you're familiar with the little libraries that are scattered in several locations in the town.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, or at least I understand that people drop off books that really they're trying to be nice, but they're not really for the library's collection. Is there a quote little library in senior housing and in congregate housing places to which we could direct some of the surplus that we don't need and give people access to stuff since we can't deliver to these centers?
As far as an outside type of little library,
We're
no.
in a lobby.
Okay, so we have what's called book nooks, and we have 7 of them located in different locations. Most of them are like a HEPA. Solstice, I believe, has one. So it's in the senior housing building.
Terrific. Thank you.
So, but the issue's been most of them have closed down for access from the outside. So we haven't been able to send our volunteers to replenish those book nooks. So we don't know what shape they're in, if they need more books. Our homebound librarian is in constant contact with those organizations. We're hoping at some point that they would be able to let us in, or at least let us deliver material so that they can refill the books.
Thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
ignorance is a newcomer showing again.
Any other questions on any of the 4 items on Michael's report? Okay, thank you, Michael. I'm not going to let you escape, but we'll move over to new business. And Sean has already given his review, but the Circle of Friends, if you have something to say about that, Michael, to inform us.
Yes, they've been continuing to do passive
Marilyn, I'm
fundraising.
sorry, Marilyn, if you have.
No, I have nothing. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Or maybe Michael knows.
For the Circle of Friends.
Yes, thank you, Michael.
One of the things I can report that we were just informed by our liaison librarian to the Circle of Friends is that the fundraising has been very positive during this period. We are currently double the dollar amount that's been donated to the Circle of Friends for the annual appeal. So that's really nice to see. The community is really supporting the library in different ways, despite what's going on.
It's great. Any questions about or comments about Circle of Friends? Okay. The next item annually, we elect officers for our board, chair, vice chair, and secretary. And the process is, January, we nominate, and then February we vote. So we need a nomination slate for those 3 offices.
Who are the current officers?
Chair, Catherine is is vice chair, and Rosemary is secretary. We don't have a treasurer. We don't. So first,
Are you 3 willing to serve again?
I think
Rosemary?
I'm stepping down, my computer, because we're virtual, my computer doesn't interface very well with the library system. And I either have to, finagle it or come in and type. So I would have done this for many years and would be happy if someone else were taking over. So I do not wish to be nominated again.
And thank you, Rosemary, for all that service you've done for us.
What about the other 2 of you?
Catherine, why don't you?
I'm happy to stay on,
Um,
unless somebody else really wants to.
yeah. Yeah. I've had the seat for a long time, but I don't mind continuing with it if that's your
You're in-
pleasure. But
You're an
Such
institution.
a good
already.
job.
well, we'll say 1 more year. But anyone who would like to do that, please. Now's it's equally better than I could do. So don't hesitate. So sounds like Catherine and I continue if that's your pleasure to vote that way, but we need someone for secretary. Is there anyone who would entertain doing that? Don't all jump at once.
Rosemary, what's the issue? Are you like on an Apple and the computer, the
Yes.
library's PC, or
It doesn't like it anyway. It's,
so yours is an Apple?
Can we buy you a PC?
well, also, I think, I've done this for many, many years.
I know.
Yeah, and she has. I don't think there's anything that would break the rules to have even like co-secretaries. I mean, being secretary it's work. And I know in our neighborhood organization, treasurer was a position that just got to be too much for one person, so they made a co-treasurers. And I think that, again, pleasure of the board, but if we wanted to have, if you would like to have, say, well, I could do it half the time or split. I think we've done that actually in the past, split the secretarial work.
If no one else wants to do it, I'll do it.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
So
you, Barb.
enthusiastic, Barbara.
And if it becomes too much, we'll recruit help.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Okay, so we have a nominations. Hallie, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying the same thing. We have a slate.
Okay, we have a slate, so we'll bring that slate to vote next month. Thank you,
Does there
Barb.
have to be for my secretarial role, does there have to be, what do I write? Or is somebody formally nominating these people? Or we have a slate?
Oh, that's a good point.
What is the
Would
process?
someone like to make a motion for for a nomination slate as,
Nominate the slate. I cast a ballot for the slate.
Yeah.
Or
Second.
I nominate
You're
the slate,
nominating.
whatever.
okay, so
What's the-
Hallie made the motion and Matthew, you second?
Hallie made a motion to nominate this slate. What is the,
Marie Shaw, Catherine, and Barbara.
Yeah.
Or chair, co-chair, and secretary respectively.
motion to nominate the above? And who's seconding?
I
Matthew?
believe Matthew.
Matthew. Okay. Okay, so vote next in February. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine and Barb, very much. Thank you for serving. Old business. Actually, is there any other new business that's not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, let me move over to no old business, the last page. There's website survey and then there's the phishing update, and I will share with you information about the phishing. Michael, do you have anything about the survey that you'd like to? Oh, we can't.
Can't hear you.
Here we go.
Okay.
Jen had the staff fill out the survey, and she's received back approximately 25 or 30. And then she's sent them to the board members. I'll let her know that Matthew had an issue with opening so that we can resend the survey to Matthew.
Oh, I got the survey. I didn't.
Oh, you
get
got the survey. You didn't
I
get the
have
other.
the survey. I did not get the agenda.
Okay.
Oh.
So she's asking the library board members now to fill out the library website survey. Be as honest as you can. I know Barbara's already sent back an email with some of her insight, and it's an opportunity to create as best of a website as we can to represent the library. So the more eyes on the current version that can point out issues, insufficiencies, whatever, the better.
And when would Jennifer like those by? Does she have a?
She doesn't have a deadline. You know, next couple of weeks would be great, because I know it does take time to go through the website. I think there shouldn't be any issues with things like dead links or clicking through, because anything that was an issue like that has already been discovered from the staff in surveys. But you know, it can be things like, you know, how well do you think the message is being presented for the different pages? Because we do have separate pages for different topics within the library. You may decide that that's not a really good way of having the website. I mean, we're pretty open to. I mean, we've got a website up there now, and it's doing its thing, but there's always room for improvement.
It's so new too. I mean, this new site, so it's the right time to make that
Right.
branding and look.
Yep. And branding is important, because one of the things that Jen and I have been discussing is the library logo, and a desire to maybe come up with a new one. Parks and Rec has done a great job, you know, so that's something you can do, is go to the Parks and Rec page and see how they put their page together, and the color schemes and the logo and everything seem to go so well together. So is it time for the library to come up with a new logo? I mean, this one's what, roughly 8 years old, something like that, 10 years old. But does it, you know, if you look at the logo, does that mean Groton Public Library to you just looking at it?
I make one comment. It
Okay.
says Groton Public Library. It doesn't say Groton, Connecticut Public Library. And there's a Groton, New York. There's a Groton, Massachusetts. Maybe we might want to put the word CT in there too. Because
Yeah.
I know when I looked for the Groton Library when I first moved here, oh, that's great. And then I realized I was looking at Massachusetts.
You always get Massachusetts first.
Up first.
That happens a lot. We will get people asking to register for programs, and you know, we'll try to convince them, well, we don't have that program going on at this time. And then we've asked them, where do you live? And invariably they live up in Massachusetts. So, but yeah, there's a Groton, Vermont. There's a Groton, South Dakota. I've gotten email for them. So I think Jim Streeter said there's 21 villages, towns, incorporated areas with the name of Groton in the United States.
So maybe we can put CT on our website.
Yeah, the GrotonPL.org could be changed, you know, and that's something that the library board can look at, because Massachusetts goes by GPL.org. So they don't even have Massachusetts as part of the URL for their website. So you know,
I'm talking
you
about the
wonder-
homepage, the home, when you open it up to the homepage.
homepage. Yeah, but make those suggestions. So look at the website. There's most of it, you're
Mhm.
rating different parts of the pages, and then there's plenty of place to make comments.
I think even more than what's on the page when you go to it is what's in the summary on Google, like it says Groton Public Library - Town of Groton. Could be Groton Public Library or Groton CT Public Library with Connecticut in parentheses, because most people will get to that page by Googling it, and not, so that the Connecticut should be in what people see when they Google it, not necessarily what people see when they get to the page. Because by the time they get to the page, the kind of the damage is already done.
Yeah.
You know, so I would change the the Google search terms in the HTML. I forget what it's called now. But all the pages have the titles and the words that come up when you search them.
Edit tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just put CT after Groton
After
in the
Groton.
meta tag.
In the meta tag, right. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
the new, I'm looking at the website, the new town logo is on there. It does have Connecticut as part of the town, the new town logo, but it's still up in the upper left corner and maybe not that noticeable.
mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the next couple of weeks, if we can get that survey information to Jennifer, that would be, your opinion about using the survey would be great. Okay, so the last item is the fishing, and you crossed me once, okay, you crossed me twice. And Rosemary called me yesterday and said, I got another email that doesn't sound like you, and Marilyn, you said, and I said,
Yeah,
so I decided, with our director out, I would just call town hall and talk to the webmaster, and left him a message. He actually called me back last night, but today we spoke, and I was also communicating with Jennifer as well through email. And so today our board link was there, but it was inactive. Okay. The issue is, and it's Mr. Hancock, who is the IT web person. He agreed that absolutely having hyperlinks of our email addresses was just, as Barb, I think you suggested last month, was just we're just sitting waiting for this to happen. I asked about the Google My Business. I said these are correlated to the changeover to the new website. And I said I've been on the board forever, and one, have never even been contacted with my email or phone number about library business through that way. And then secondly, the change from PDF to active hyperlinks on this new site certainly is bringing this something new to the phishing is something that we hadn't seen before. So he said absolutely the having our email in active hyperlinks just made us absolutely almost for the taking. Yeah. So what they did today was they broke the link to our information, and they're going to put up an Excel sheet. It's an Excel sheet, I guess, in PDF. And that way, he said it would take 2 clicks to get our emails. But then I said to him, I said, well, since I'm on the phone, I said, why do we even have our personal emails? Because I looked at some of the other town committees, and some people don't have any information down, personal other than their name. Others have, they leave the phone number off, they leave and he said, well, it really is your choice whether you want your phone number and email out there. And I said, well, burn twice, I don't want it. But I did ask him if it'd be possible. So we have choices. One, he said, we're not required to have our personal phone numbers or emails on the library site, on the town site. And he said some people who are on boards, they set up another email just for their board business. So they're contacted through another email. But I said, well, that's okay, but I said, could you, as in the town, make a library board email address that if anyone wanted to contact a library board member, they could use that. And that email address could just be posted with maybe, and I'm just going to suggest this, you may feel differently, but my suggestion is just have our names, no home phone numbers, and one library board email address, and call the library for, and then someone calls the library and says they want to talk to a board member, that information we get to Jennifer and she could tell us and give me the number, I'll call that person. Mr. Hancock said absolutely, because he said it'd be easy for him to set up I'm going to quote, library board, at da 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 da. And he said as long as it's in a staff person's group, he would set up a group with either the director or assistant director, someone who would be, and if an email came into to that library board, the staff member who's sees this as a group would, get a number or something light up, and then you say, oh, there's an email for a library board, and then it can be sent over to the chair or to, if it's specific to a person, ferret it out that way. So that's, he said absolutely and he apologized for the hyperlinks that they had was just, I asked him, I said, well, we have, we have the address of the person who was using my name, not my email, but my name. And he said, I said, will that do you any good? And he said, you can't catch them. He said, they change those addresses around so fast. He said, it's not even worth pursuing. So that's where we are.
So did he do anything? Did he delink us?
He's willing to do anything for
But
us.
has he? Did you ask him to delink?
As of today, they were going to make a PDF of our phone numbers and the email addresses that were in hyperlinks up until this morning. And I haven't checked to see, as this morning, the link wasn't working. I don't know if it's working now or not, if that PDF went up. But I said we were going to be talking about this as a board and making a board decision tonight as to how we want to be contacted by the public.
I really like your idea about just having a single email address for the library board in general. I mean, that's perfect, because that way people who actually need one or all of us can communicate, but we don't run the risk of this phishing or people even going in with malintent and typing out our emails.
Mhm.
And one thing I've noticed, I have a email address at Cornell that I've had for 30 years. People write to me at my Cornell email address, and it shows up in my mailbox. So we can have it forward. I mean, we could have a Groton Library Board email that would then be forwarded to Marie, but in 40 years when Marie retires, it can then be forwarded to Barbara.
Well, he did say that to have the email go outside of a Groton department, it would cost money.
Oh.
He said he could, as long as it went to a Groton, he suggested the library director make a group. And that way the library director would see it and could forward it. But if it went from, Groton Public Library Board to any one of us, that's outside of the government, it's.
If Jennifer's, I'm sorry. Haley.
Hallie.
Quick question. If he creates a PDF that has our information, that cannot be used for phishing.
It could if they wanted to copy and paste it, but if it's being done robotically or botly, or it's less easy to pick up, and that's why we have had that for years as a PDF in the older website.
Yeah. I don't have strong feelings about it, but I do feel like I should be accessible as a member of a public board. I don't mind my email address being out there as long as it's not hypertexted. So if somebody wants to get in touch with me or with one of us, they can do it. without having to go through the library. I don't have a problem with it. The Outlook address that I use, I really use only for library stuff. I also have a Gmail address and a Yahoo address. So it doesn't really bother me. I do get some spam in Outlook and I just delete it.
Hallie?
The town puts out the town register. And everybody who is on any committee or RTM or whatever, it's right out there in a booklet that's available. So that, but that's not online. So that's not, so our addresses are there. They can't be,
It is online.
what?
The register
The
is
register
online.
is online?
Yeah, there's a link from the town clerk's website,
Mhm.
and it lists board members' names, home address, and then their term of membership on the board.
Doesn't have email?
No email,
Okay.
No phone number.
no phone number.
And it's probably PDF. I mean, I would assume, but
Yeah, it looks like
When
it's a
I've
PDF.
tried to find addresses for, city or town councilors, some of them in the register do give it and others don't.
well, I
So,
think it would be
What's
your option. I mean, I like the idea of, for those who do not want to have their email, to go to a generic library board email to the director. Now, the other side of that is sometimes there may be an email that you want to say only at the board, at the board side. I have never seen one, but that's not to say it couldn't happen that way.
I mean, I also would be okay with just having my phone number listed. Because I think, if somebody wants to get in touch with one of us, it's to require them to actually dial or, whatever, punch in a phone number, I don't think is a big hurdle, whereas an email, I think, is a lot more easy to abuse.
Mhm.
Um,
That also would spur a conversation about the issue too.
Yeah,
Oh, I do feel like today, if you see a phone number coming in that you don't recognize, like we get tons of calls that say, like the 860-536,
Mm.
and then somebody's name. And if we don't know that person, we assume it's one of those fake
spoofing.
calls.
But
Yeah.
don't we all have voicemail? I mean, if
Right,
somebody
so, yeah,
wants
but then the
contact-
person never, there's voicemail.
Right.
But
I mean,
I like,
I never answer my phone if I don't recognize
right,
the number and the person.
Right.
I figure if they really want to get a hold of me, if it's legitimate, they'll leave a message. And if they
Right.
don't leave a message,
right.
what can you do?
Yeah.
What would you think about leaving the same information, but in a PDF file? And if it poses a problem, we'll hear about it.
Well, like I said,
You
I'm
can always
pretty,
change.
I'm kind of exhausted on my name being associated with this phishing. So I
Whatever you
personally
want.
do not want my email address. That's just my own.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever
What
you
if we
guys
just
want.
went with phone numbers
Yeah,
in a PDF?
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And have an email address made just in
For
for
the
library
Sure.
board.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea too.
Would someone like to make a motion to that? I think we probably should have that documented if.
She just did.
So do you want to repeat it for minutes?
That's why I didn't volunteer.
So phone numbers for everyone, but just one generic email address
For the
Address
library board.
to the
Your
library board.
home street address too? Or just name and phone number?
Name and phone number, and then one email address to all of us as library board members.
Right, because right now our street address is also out there.
Yeah.
So we're removing that. Okay.
That also has a legal benefit because email communications to a public official, not that we're much public officials, but we are, must be kept just the way any other written communications must be kept, part of legal record for open meetings. So sending it to the library board that Jennifer would look at would be a way for her to archive any communications.
Good.
Mhm.
That's the reason why a lot of people set up a second email account for their board business, because we're also stressing to our staff members, don't use your cell phones for library business, because if there's an FOIA and they suspect you used your phone, or they want some information because you used your phone, they're going to take your phone.
Right. Right. So just for clarity, my own, so the library board member name and
Phone number.
phone number, not address and not email.
Right.
And one generic library board email set up to go to, we're gonna recommend the director in a group.
In a PDF, though, the
in the
first.
PDF, right?
Our addresses will still be in the town register? Right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't have a problem either way, really, if we put our addresses on the library website.
Mhm.
I think the phone numbers are fine.
There was a very strange email to Marie and me as the chair and the vice chair at one point, which I found a little disturbing. So I didn't like the fact that my address was right there.
Right. Yeah, we got that too. That
Yeah,
same
we all got
disturbing
it from the
email.
guy who was upset about having this, he couldn't put his design or whatever it was in the.
Lego ship.
Right, right. Okay, I guess it was just addressed to us, but yeah, I that made me nervous.
Mhm. Yeah,
The fact is, we have no privacy. If I put in Marie Shaw plus Groton and put it into Google, I will come up with her address and phone number without.
Right.
Right, but at least you're consciously doing that as opposed to
Mhm.
having
right there.
a program,
Great solution, guys.
Google
So
My
do we-
Business, and here
Do
we
we
are.
need, do we need a second on that? I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion
Sashi
was
and
made by Sashi, a second by Marilyn.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
and it's for name and phone number only with a generic library board email address made internally to go to the library director in a group.
Right.
I would probably suggest that maybe you make it library director and assistant director in case one or the other is
Oh,
not
okay.
in.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I just had a question about the phone numbers. I know that if you open the PDF from a phone, you possibly could have the option to tap on the phone number and dial. Should we request that not be enabled so that there's no
link.
collection of phone numbers that you have to actually have, touch in the number to dial it?
Okay. Oh my God. I don't have enough paper to write all this, folks.
Right, so not an active link to the automatic calling.
Yeah, my fear is that could end up getting picked up for texting for spam.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hand. Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Michael, will Jennifer be in tomorrow? Do you know? if she's-
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a point of calling her and
For next month's meeting, if Jennifer could provide an update on the collaboration with the school district with regard to library cards, I'd be really interested to know how that's moving ahead.
Okay. I do know that it is actually receiving positive feedback from the school board. I spoke to the teen librarian that's been spearheading this. But like any other government type agency, they're going through the processes. But the teen librarian feels very positive that that there's support. Most of the people on the board, if not all, are supporting this. It's just trying to finalize, exactly how it's going to happen. And one of the main concerns by the school board was the students' privacy. So we're just trying to hash out and ensure them that whatever system we use or come up with so that the students can access library material with using one card, whether it's their school ID number or what another number, unique number that's created for each one, that no outside vendor or anything like that would have access to their information.
Excellent, thank you.
Just on that, Michael, yesterday, I don't know if you attended the coffee intro of the new with the new state librarian.
No, I missed that.
The CLC, Connecticut Library Consortium, had a Zoom meet and greet over coffee, not of Zoom, and Deborah Schumer, I think is her last name, that the new state librarian, she said she was making it very high on her, goal to have, and many librarians spoke this, have a more seamless school public library integration. You may just want to kind of keep an ear to the ground with what the state library may be doing with that. There's a program, I'll see if I can find that. There's a program just about that. I don't know, it's called First Student or something, but they're working on that at the state library, actually.
That'd be good. I've attended some really good presentations at PLA and ALA in the past where
I'll think about who
school systems get together and work with the local public library and make things more streamlined for borrowing materials.
Right. Well, is there any other old business?
Can I
Catherine, yes.
actually back us up to new business? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I've been sitting here thinking about how reluctant Barb looked about the secretarial position. So I'm not totally averse to doing that if I have a little help, and I can talk about that later. But do you want, Barb, do you want to switch or change it up, and I'll stand for the secretary instead?
Oh, I'm okay with it, really.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. It's your opportunity to not.
No, that's okay.
Challenge. Well, thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Barb, for sure. Like I said, maybe there needs to be collaboration during the year.
So this would take effect for the March meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Any other
Unless you'd
business?
like to do it in February, we could vote first. No.
No, that's okay.
No, I guess I'm going to see you with the flash drive, Rosemary.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to end? Matthew? Okay. Second?
Yeah.
Okay, Catherine. Okay, thank you so much, and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank
Have a
you.
great evening, everybody.
Have a
Yeah.
good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Barb,
Bye-bye.
see you later.
Bye-bye.